Hello, and welcome back to Surregarth Stories. Today, we will be covering Chapter 2 of my book currently. I made some changes to Chapter 1, but we're not really going to be going over that yet. I might make a miscellaneous changes video about I might make a miscellaneous changes episode of Surregarth Stories. But for now, I'm going to just upload this quick little character options thing. Well, actually, it's not quick. The character options chapter is in fact I think almost 15 pages long. So we're gonna be here for a little bit. This is probably gonna be longer than the. This is probably going to be longer than the first chapter, most likely, because the first chapter is only like 3 pages, and I even significantly shortened it actually, and made it a bit more digestible, I guess, by kind of breaking up some of the paragraphs that were like huge before. So yeah. So for first off, we have revised races. I revised the kobolds. I hate the kobolds in 5th edition. I completely changed them. In fact, I completely changed them from kind of the ground up as well. These are the only. This is the only race that doesn't like kind of use the same outline that it does from 5th edition. Well, not the only race, but that's but that's like something I can focus on in a second. So the thing is, whoa. All right. So the thing is that kobolds now were created by a person like a dragon who raised or who rise to godhood, through a bunch of interesting means that I will not get into yet because I could. I'm planning on making future episodes like Surregarth legends and stuff like that, where he'll be mentioned more in depth. But Vulcan is the dragon, and he ascended to a status. He's technically not a god, but he was able to create the kobolds who kind of worshipped him from there. But anyway, so he was sort of the smallest dragon in his little litter, but used his intelligence and magic to just like kind of slay everyone else. And then after that, he created the kobolds, which is a race of very small, yet extremely cunning small, dragon-like creatures, with the ultimate goal of proving that they're the most powerful races in terms of just like they're the most powerful of all races. Basically, I should probably just get rid of like the brain power thing. I mean, it's correct, but whatever. So of course, Vulcan gave out the kobolds some natural magic that the dragon used to murder his adversaries. He also bestowed them with superior brain power and dexterity, along with supernatural charisma. When making kobolds, Vulcan gave them resistances based on what color their skills were. He didn't make all of them red to cover all bases for the takeover. So basically, Vulcan is kind of waiting. He's lying in wait for the right moment to kind of like go, okay, right now, go, to all those kobolds. And so when he does do that, all the kobolds, not all of them, there are quite a few exceptions, because none are forced to follow Vulcan, as he can't really punish everyone who doesn't. But either way, a lot of kobolds that like kind of want to keep to Vulcan's word, mostly paladins of Vulcan, clerics of Vulcan, that sort of thing. They are normally the ones who are going to be quick, turn on their like familiars the quickest. But either way, hold on, is that a good angle? It's probably not a good angle. I'm gonna be real. Hold on. I could like, there we go. Now you can see it a little bit better. Yeah. Well, there we go. Okay. So basically, after Vulcan kind of like snaps his fingers, all the kobolds be like, all right, it's time. Let's go take over the world and stuff. So they also get dragon resentment. Vulcan hated all the other dragons because of the gifts they were given without deserving it, particularly size and strength. So resentment carries on to kobolds. Kobolds hate dragons, particularly white dragons. They do tolerate green dragons, though, as they're similar to their lord in the fact that they are not the most powerful and also extremely cunning. So friendly on the outside, kobolds understand that they were created with lower than average strength, so they circumvent that by sneakily infiltrating other societies for protection. Kobolds essentially, to the other races of Surregarth, appeared out of nowhere, so they couldn't make a judgment of their character, blah, 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 small and fairly charismatic. So basically, yeah, it is a... it is a sort of thing where the kobolds are very manipulative. almost all of them. So different kinds of kobolds are the typical ones. There are many kobolds who don't heed the call of their god. This only slightly angers Vulcan. He doesn't let them interfere with his main plan. As the other kobolds, they want to assist in the takeover. Most won't try to intervene, as they most likely will be spared. Cave kobolds are a lot like typical 5e kobolds, but without most of the personality of the originals. They're the most recluse out of them all, and usually don't have visitors. They don't like dragons, but won't assist Vulcan once the kobold revolution begins. And I say revolution in kind of open quotes. I guess once the kobold takeover begins. There you go. I'm gonna change that. So anyway, these kobolds aren't too. This underwater kobolds aren't too different from cave kobolds in terms of their societies, except for the fact that they're exceptionally more aggressive when it comes to territory. These kobolds are normally evil alignment and hate dragons. Underwater kobolds would assist the evil kobolds in their resolution with water support, of course. Then you got chaotic, lawful, and neutral good kobolds. So some of them don't use their powers for evil. Then you got the kobold traits. So dexterity, charisma, and intelligence increased by 1 for a total of +3 to any one of the kobold stats. I think that's fair since most of the other races get like a +3 overall as well, except for mountain dwarves and of course humans. But you know, humans get a +1 to everything. So, but either way, age, mature at a breakneck pace. Kobold reaches 7 or 8 years old. Adults over 120 years old, but usually only get around to 80 or 90. Kobolds tend to be neutral evil or others on the neutral scale, but they can be of good alignment. Specifically, cave kobolds are carrying creatures. Kobolds are diminutive creatures. Blah blah blah. Yeah, they are small. Base walking speed 30 feet. Innate spell casting. So it depends on what color your scales are. Like acid splashed for black scales, shocking grasp for blue scales. Then you got silver tongues, which is basically you gain proficiency in the deception and persuasion skill. Then there's draconic resistance, which is, you know, it's basically the dragonborn thing where you choose your scale color and then you get resistance to that type of damage. Then the language is common and draconic. Then you go down here to kobold sub-race traits, which is dark vision for cave kobolds and underwater kobolds. And then if you really want to, if you want 120 feet of dark vision, you are given the option of choosing sunlight sensitivity. So it's not like forced upon you. Then cave kobolds have burrowing prowess, which is a burrowing speed of 15 feet, 20 with a shovel or pickaxe. And then pack tactics, which isn't as bad as the normal one. I made it so that it's sort of a charge thing. Like you can expend charges equal to your proficiency bonus, and that recharges on a long or short rest. Then there's aquatic nature, swim speed of 30 feet. Yeah. And then if you land a critical hit or kill a creature, you can use a bonus action to run up to another creature and make an attack. Then languages, underwater kobolds know Aquan, Common, and Draconic, with kobolds knowing Terran alongside Common and Draconic. Then we get into the sort of revised history of races, where I'm not actually changing the mechanics of the races. I'm just kind of changing the backstory. So Aarakocra are sort of the quintessential race that sort of lives on these flying islands, other than the Air and quite a few other humanoids. So yeah, there's a lot of them all over Surregarth. If you want to, you can just read. I'm gonna be real. I'm not gonna go into in depth, otherwise this video would be like 8 million years long. So I'm not gonna do that. Basically, all you need to know is that Aarakocra were like born after the Air but they were kind of favored by Breeze. And they were created because Breeze, the air god, was unsatisfied with the lack of humanoids born of the sky, as there are lord of land and sea. So the company Air Ganassi created the Aarakocra, favored the Aarakocra more than the Ganassi, blah blah. Continued up in Breeze's death, where air clerics of the air god lost their power for a while before gaining them back when Gale took up the mantle. So Gale is a much lesser god. He doesn't really he doesn't show favoritism. Then Aasimar are generally the same, except they are very rare. They're much rarer than they are in 5th edition. There are only a handful of Aasimar in the world. It spawned from the union of a divine being and a mortal humanoid. They're depicted in ancient myths and lore as saviors of the innocent, protectors of Surregarth. Basically, as soon as Aasimar are born, most of the townspeople will revere them, and some of them will put them through trials and stuff to become like a big old hero, like the ones of old. And then sometimes they kind of like, a lot of the time the Aasimar like kind of crack under the expectations of others, and sometimes they become fallen Aasimar when they start to actively resent what everybody else wants out of them. Then the Dragonborn are kind of sad. In the beginning of Surregarth, the evil dragon god Josholsh tried to create a race he could envision to be superior among all others in his image. He, however, failed and created the Dragonborn. Discretion with his botched creations, he abandoned them and started work on what are now true dragons. So basically, Dragonborn didn't have a god for a while, and then Shardra became one later. Before that, Dragonborns were kind of hermits, not really doing too much. They were kind of basically a depressed people. But then they turned into a militaristic race that ruled over the continent of Barone. But the pride they gained back, the kind of it kind of made them faceplant spectacular. So dwarves are very interesting. I actually like the dwarf stuff. So sometimes called mountain folk, dwarves used to be clans of hermits which coveted wealth and power. Basically, they're kind of like Tolkien dwarves. They were very family oriented, that sort of thing, very greedy. But then after the split, which was covered in chapter 1, which is basically the splitting of the supercontinent of Koror into what the map is now, which I will actually show most likely at the end of this video, just as like reference. So blah blah, called mountain folk, original dwarven god, created the dwarves with the innate desires to hoard wealth for themselves. So they forged their own kingdoms. Dwarves never worked with other races. Basically, they were paranoid and they didn't really like sharing stuff. So when the split commenced, everybody, all the dwarves were forced out of their strongholds, and they had to adapt to the like working with other people. That alongside a god shift kind of incentivized companionship in dwarves, along with these commandments that you see here that the new god Throdom kind of installed. You don't have to follow them, but if you do, it's said that if you follow all these commandments until until your last breath, you become one of Throdom's angels. Then elves are widespread across Surregarth. What elves that form, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so basically, elves are everywhere. That's what this first little thing is saying. So elves are everywhere. There are 3 types of elves, but it didn't used to be that way. Back in this the battle that caused the split between the gods, the original elven god was sealed in the weapon of Gruk, which is the god of orcs. So since the god wasn't killed, the replacement wasn't able to be chosen or formed. So if you didn't see last time, I kind of explained that in my world, when I don't know if I actually explained this or not. Hold on. But anyway, in my world, if a god dies, it is a new replacement is like formed out of the aether from Mariflet's kind of essence, as she still kind of looks upon the world, though in a more ethereal sense. But either way, so no elves had like a god to pray to during this time. So some of them like split off to worship other gods, goddesses for protection, who kind of gracefully gave them that. So like they worshipped rain or something else. I don't know if rain was like the water god back then, or I don't remember if the rain was the water god back then. But either way, so they prayed for different goddesses to protection, or gods and goddesses for protection. Blah blah blah. Eventually, Gruk was defeated and the elven god was let free. But then by then the normal high elf population was drastically reduced, and even now high elves are scarce compared to the other 2 subraces of elves. Then there's Furbolgs, which is another actual variation of the elf that was touched by Arilgan Ross, which is the god of knowledge and innovation. They're kind of like, I wouldn't say hippies because I don't exactly know what like what the definition of hippie is, but like if what I think a hippie is correct, then these guys are kind of hippies. Maybe no, I think I'm looking for the word tree hugger or something, but whatever. So basically, like, they love nature, they love getting knowledge, and they love their path to enlightenment. There you go. Then gnomes, basically the same. Creativity, intelligence, yeah. They created the metalmen, which is the closest comparison would be warforged. Sewing machines and all types of clockwork. Standard gnomes are other types of gnomes, like deep gnomes and forest gnomes. Deep gnomes are tricksters that group up in deep gnomes are hardworking, single-minded creatures dedicated to survival and family, while forest gnomes are tricksters that group up in packs to play pranks on travelers through their forests. Forest gnomes were the original and created by Rare, but in a smart move, he diversified the gnomes to ensure that the gnomes would survive all around the world and carry his divine words. The reason he wants his divine words spread around is because he wants more power. Lucas. Little brother just came in. Anyway, so the blah 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 blah. Smart movie, diversified. Reasoning one is a divine word. Yeah, with more power to contest Somranthus, who's been biding his time and gaining power to take down the other gods of the Pantheon. Then there's goblins. Goblins, bugbears, and hobgoblins, which are similar to orcs. Goblinoids are Somranthus' corruption of a pre-made race in Surregarth. Gnomes were the base race this time, and just like the orcs with elves, goblinoids are a twisted version of gnomes. They have the same inventiveness, however, their contraptions are used for much more malicious purposes. Goblinoids are actually the inventors of gunpowder and use them for acts of war and raids. Other races have gotten their hands on the goblinoids' gunpowder, but not many have figured out how to actually use it. Before Rockfell was in prison, goblinoids would operate secretly within cities as mafias that would harass the populace and threaten nobles with assassination. Now they kind of live in broken down strongholds on unclaimed land all around Surregarth as clans of raiders that skirmish with the other less civilized inhabitants of the wilds, like gnomes or mudfolk. There are also some goblinoids that roam around normal peoples. They are unfortunately ostracized, if not straight out harassed by most towns, though. Then there's Ganassi, which are basically the origin race. These guys have been around since forever. Literally since like the dawn of time in Surregarth. These guys have been around, and they're very rare. You don't see too many of them because they live in like extreme environments like volcanoes, very high up in the sky, in deep, vast like subterranean areas, that sort of thing. Then there's Grungs. Living in small tribes in different jungles and forests of Surregarth, these insectivores house themselves in treetops. They're basically like little tribesmen, sort of not exactly savage, but they have a little tribe system and a caste system, in fact, that is not determined by your color. It is determined by, or at least the color of the Grung. But either way, it's determined by how much you contribute to society. Like, you could be like the ruler for like 5 years, but then somebody does something more cooler and more important than you, and you're just thrown out, or you're thrown down a peg, not like all the way to the bottom, but whatever. Then there's halflings, which are basically they're kind of like Tolkien hobbits, just kind of simple people who love to. They're not exactly fighters, though the halfling population normally they like are very family oriented. They treat friends like family as well. So like basically they can also like they kind of tuck their homies in as the kids say. So blah blah camaraderie. Yeah. Also, the way halflings find love is interesting. At the age of 18, troubled suitable halfling males and females journey out into the world to find a soulmate. For this reason, most halfling adventurers, or just halfling you see outside of their homeland in general, around 18 to 20. Then there's humans. They're humans. Then there's lizard folk. I like this one. Swamp skulking lizard-like humanoids that live in tribal systems as scavengers who lure creatures into their swamp so that if they die, the lizard folk can eat them and harvest the bones. They also eat creatures within the swamp, catching both intruders and natives in traps. Mentality of a lizard folk is terrifyingly alien to that of other humanoids. Main goal is to survive. Secondary goal is to make the only intelligent humanoids doing that in their territory. They also can't feel emotion, no matter how hard they try. They can understand emotion, but they can't replicate it. Though this is motionless works in their favor, as the things lizard folk do would scar the average humanoid race. So yeah, that's kind of what they do. Then you got orcs starting out as mutations of the blood shed from an elven king while he and his army were fighting demons. Demonic forces. Orcs used to be savage, small-brained raiders that ran around pillaging and killing all that they wanted. In the beginning, all orcs were male, and they created offspring through spilling elf blood. I might change that to just spilling humanoid blood. I'm not sure yet. Anyway, of which fully grown orcs would spawn. However, after Grook was sealed away, blah, 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 Kithbricks created the first female orcs and changed their orc reproductive cycle to match those of other humanoids after they kind of repented and basically went like, yeah, we were kind of jerks. So, yeah, they kind of, and then they became like a sort of a seafaring race. Then there's Tabaxi, a race of cat-like people whose curiosity is... Oh, yeah, by the way, there are still savage orcs that are kind of out there, like barbarians. Then there's Tabaxi, a race of cat-like people whose curiosity is only matched by the possessiveness of trinkets. They're a lot like turtles, which I will go into literally like right after tieflings. They're nomadic, but the main differences to Tabaxi are they have short bursts of energy, followed by bouts of extreme lethargy. Like, they like travel for a really, like... They travel so far in so short a time, but when they it's like a sugar crash. You're like so hyped up and you're like bouncing around everywhere, and then you just like completely crash out. That's basically what the Tabaxi are, and they're pretty cool. You got tieflings. Tieflings are the result of devilish or demonic influences bloodlines that make the resulting baby into a humanoid slash devil slash demon hybrid. Tieflings are always shunned by society, along with the parents themselves, because the most common way tieflings are born, that being exposed to evil energies through worship, summoning, or some other despicable interaction with said fiend. Tieflings are normally split between their humanoid heritage and their devilish tendencies. Many are under the influence of Samranthus and carry out as well, while those who refuse go insane once they hit around the age of 50, hurting their loved ones in the process. For this reason, many good aligned tieflings ask to be executed before they go home. It's unknown how or when they first showed up in Surregarth, but they've been kicking around the continent for ages now. A lot of tieflings, as said before, are bandits, smugglers, dealers, etc. However, even the good tieflings are always vagrants, adventurers, and other dangerous walks of life. The reason that they go insane by the age of 50 is not explained here, actually, but it's because literally every day, it's like subliminal messaging whenever a tiefling just exists, and they are good. By Samranthus that basically goes like, okay, hey, do something bad. Like they kind of chill out. They're like chilling out, and then they see somebody like getting mugged on the street, and they're like, take the money. And then like there's a voice in their head telling them, take the money, rob them, beat up the criminal, rob them, and then take the money of the old woman, and that sort of thing. And that kind of drives people to insanity. Then you got turtles, tabaxi, but more consistent. Tabaxi, but more consistent. They're slower, but more consistent, basically. Then you got Triton. Guardians, blah, blah, ancient secrets of the deep. Triton are one of the rarest races of Surregarth, with less than 50 worldwide. They're known to be extremely powerful creatures and never age, so the 50 Triton worldwide are the same back when they were first created. That being said, let's get into the first creation. Back before the split, there were many evil gods being created or cultivated by Samranthus, so as precaution, the water goddess of the time, Aqua, created the Triton with vast amounts of her power, so that the evil cannot discover the powerful secrets of the deep. Then you got part 2, which are my new races. I think I mentioned these guys before, the Muttfolk and Tree Striders. So the Muttfolk are the spawn of Dilmund, which is the god of beasts, who kind of went insane later on down the line. But they're the most advanced race that Dilmund had created. And they're kind of furry dog-like beasts that walk on 2 legs and blah, blah, blah. Advanced race of Dilmunds. They're still kind of simple. So they're basically like dogs. They're really loyal. And they kind of do a little tribe system where there's an alpha and there's like that sort of thing. And they mostly kick around wild areas, but there are like civilized ones that kind of walk among other people. They're either like small or like medium sized, and you got a bunch of cool stuff. So anyway, there's the ability score increases, the dexterity score increases by 2, strength and constitution goes up by 1. Muttfolk enter adulthood at the age of 1 and can live up to 13 years, so very short lifespan. Muttfolk always tend to be chaotic because of the simplicity of their brain. Some go towards good and are naturally friendly, while others goes to evil and as some worship Dilmund. 3 to 4 feet tall, depending on the breed. They also weigh about 65 pounds. Your size is small or medium. Naturally faster than other races. However, your base walking speed is still 30 feet. And then you got your bite, on all fours, natural hunters, and limited dark vision. As well as colorblindness, because I thought that was a little cute little thing. You can speak common in Muttfolk, but most Muttfolk cannot read or write. Read nor write. I was getting fancy there, right? Then you got Tree Striders, which are tall creatures made out of wood in a vaguely humanoid shape. Tree Striders are touted as the wisest race in Surregarth. These creatures' creation is mysterious, as no god that exists relates to the Tree Striders. Some speculate that these wooden humanoids are spawned from nature, mixing with magic, of which others were able to harness later on. All of this, however, is just theory crafting, as no one truly knows the origin of Tree Striders. Tree Striders are strong and kind creatures. Primary purpose is to produce seeds, plant them, make kids, help other races with struggles. So they're basically, nobody knows how they were created, but they were obviously created to basically be just helpful. They were like, they're essentially created to be like sages, like kind of like Gandalf, that sort of thing. They're created to be like that. So with Tree Striders, your wisdom score increases by 2, with your constitution going up by 1. Tree Striders' magical and plant-based nature, they can live up to 1,500 years old. They don't have a child state though. No, they do actually have a child state, which is a seedling. I guess I'll Talk about that later on. So you got tree striders taking 7 to 8 tall, taking height from their plant ancestry, weigh around 300 pounds. Your size is medium. Tree striders are slower than the other races by default. Your speed is 25. Your wooden skin is tough, giving you a passive armor class of 16, but you can still benefit from armor though. Tree striders don't need sleep. Instead, for 4 hours, their feet can sprout roots and bind themselves to the ground, taking energy from the earth. After resting this way, you gain the benefits of a long rest. Wooden characteristics: you have resistance to bludgeoning damage. However, you also have vulnerability to fire damage. Regeneration, which is a number of times equal to proficiency bonus. Per long rest, you can heal 1d6 HP as a bonus action. Then there's tree striding. Starting at the 7th level onwards, tree striders naturally gain the ability to cast tree stride once per long rest without using a spell slot. Then you got tree striders can speak Common and Orin, and are also able to speak to trees and plants. Then you got the final part, which is part 3. The new subclasses, which are really cool. The Wildlander Ranger. Then there's the Guardian Fighter, and then finally there's the Crystal Soul Sorcerer. So the Wildlander Ranger is a like big old mix. It's got some cool stuff. So you got Wildlands familiarity. The time you spend in the Wildlands got you familiar with surroundings. You always know where north is. You can also sense if any beast or humanoid within 50 feet of you as a bonus action. And when you move at a fast pace through the Wildlands, you take no penalty to perception or stealth. This was originally made for just the Wildlands, of which I'll show probably at the end of this video, but it could extend to Pharaxos, which is a huge like kind of island out in the middle of the ocean that is very untamed. Then you got Giant Killer, Wildlands familiarity, Beast Hunter. You're very familiar with weak spot of beasts that hail from the Wildlands. When fighting a beast-type enemy, you gain an extra D4 to both your bonus to hit and damage once per turn. At the 7th level, this feature extends to humanoid-type energies, as you learn not just how to take down the beasts of Wildland, but the savage humanoids too. At 11th level, the damage die increases to D6, and at 15th level, the damage die increases to a D8. Then you got Giant Killer. You're accustomed to fighting creatures much larger than you because of the giant beasts in the Wildlands. When hitting a larger creature, you have advantage to hit said creature. Then you have Giant Beast Companion. You not only hunt the creatures of the Wildlands, but you also hold enough authority to befriend some of the more vicious ones. So you can get a giant boar, a winter wolf, a giant scorpion, a giant constrictor snake, a polar bear, or a saber-toothed tiger. Whatever beast you chose, they lose their multi-attack action, and you can command the beast with a bonus action. They take their own reactions, and you can use your entire action to let your beast use their previously lost multi-attack action. Then you got Master Hunter at the 15th level, which is your tracking and fighting skills have exceeded those capable of a normal human. You can take one of the following 2 features, which is Relentless Hunter. When a creature provokes an opportunity attack against you, you can make 2 attacks instead of 1. And then Opportunist, when a creature attacking you misses, you can use your reaction to attack it back. So those are the two Wildlander features. Now it's time. The Guardian Fighter. This is my personal favorite one, I think. And basically, when you're training with your shield, you've improved your defenses beyond what any normal adventurer is capable of. Your AC bonus when you wield the shield is +3 instead of +2. You can also make a strike with your shield as a bonus action. Damage die is a D4 plus your strength mod, and improves it to a D6 at level 7, D8 at level 10, D10 at level 15, and a D12 at level 18. You get Defensive Stance as an action. You can plant yourself and take an all-out defensive stance. While on the stance, you have a resistance to every type of damage except psychic. You also add your proficiency bonus to your AC. Creatures of your size and under that stand directly behind you have full cover, which, while standing back, only gives creatures half cover. You cannot attack in this defensive stance, and your movement speed is halved. You can hold this stance until the end of your next turn. So, as a bonus action, you can force... then there's Provocation. As a bonus action, you can force all foes within 30 feet of you to make a Wisdom saving throw. DC 8 plus your Charisma plus your proficiency bonus. On a fail, they focus their attacks on you, lest they have disadvantage. If an AoE attack or a spell is used by a foe under the effects of Provoke, then other creatures have advantage on their saving throws. You can also use this a number of times equal to 1 plus your Charisma modifier, minimum 1 time per short or long rest. Then there's Spell Blocking. You create a safe area in a 15-foot cube behind you when you enter the defensive stance. Allies within the cube add your shield's AC bonus to dexterity saving throws. They make against spells or other harmful effects. If you or your ally are subjected to an effect that requires them to make a dexterity or constitution saving throw, take only half damage. They take no damage if they succeed on the saving throw. Then there's Pinnacle of Protection. Your resolve is as hard as iron, and your shield is impenetrable. You can no longer be critically hit. Any attempt to knock you prone has disadvantage, and the distance you can be shoved is halved. Also, you can now hold your defensive stance for 1 minute. Then you got Ultimate Defender. You may enter your defensive stance as a bonus action, and whenever you enter said stance, you may add your strength modifier to your AC. So, Ultimate Tank, really good. I think it's a really cool subclass. I really like it. Some of it is taken from actually the tab is right here. Some of it is taken from another concept on here, D&D Wiki, but I had to retool some stuff because a lot of stuff on D&D Wiki is completely broken. Then you got Crystal Soul Sorcerer. You can read the cool lore right here. The other ones don't have too much lore, so I'm not really gonna linger on that. Overflowing Energy, Arcane Energy. You know what? You guys can read this. I'm like running out of breath, man. No, okay, I gotta keep going. This is the content that you guys need. So Overflowing Energy, the arcane energy inside you is more than what the average person can handle. This causes you to some magic to pour out and subtly around your body in the form of crystals. You may add your charisma modifier to your AC. Alongside that, from second level onward, you have one more sorcery point than what is usual for your class. Finally, your unarmed strikes deal d6 plus charisma mod damage as crystal envelops your fist. Your highly potent magic leads to the chance to release itself from your body, even through wounds. When a creature hits you with a melee attack or ranged attack within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction to expend a sorcery point to deal force damage to that creature equal to your sorcerer level plus your charisma modifier. So at this level, you would probably have, like, I don't know, maybe a +4. Yeah, I would say you'd have a +4, so that would be 10 damage to them as a reaction. Just like, oh, do you hit me? So anyway. Yeah. As a reaction, expend a sorcery point to do that. Then your entire figure is coated with a magical energy that repels the effects of spells cast against you. You gain resistance to the damage caused by magical effects, and you have advantage on any saving throws against magical effects. You can give another creature the effects of this feature for 1 hour by expending 8 sorcery points. So at this point, you would have like 15 because you gain 1 more than is usual for your class. I think around this level you'd get 15, right? I don't know. Anyway, whatever. So it costs 8 sorcery points. You're gonna need 8 sorcery points. You better okay. Then there's Crystal Cocoon. You can now better utilize the crystals forming around your body by extending magical energy. As an action, you can use 10 sorcery points to form a huge crystal that encases you and everything within 30 feet of you within it. The crystal, no feature in this crystal, no creature inside can move and is paralyzed for the sake of in-game mechanics. You, however, can move inside the crystal and put it out and out of it so desire. Keeping up the crystal requires your concentration, and you can keep up for a minute before the crystal shatters and the magical energy disperses. Then you got. Oh wait, that's the end. Woo! All right. Okay. So yeah, 15 pages, 32 minutes. This is gonna be an insanely long video. All right, well, see you later, guys. Bye-bye.